The January contract loses $2.60 at $865.50 per ton, and the March contract gives up $4 at $870.20 per ton. Declines in Chicago soybeans and soy oil, as well as European rapeseed and Malaysian palm oil, are weighing on canola values. There are slight upticks in Chicago soy meal. Modest losses in global crude oil prices are placing additional pressure on vegetable oils. The Prairie weather forecast is calling for above normal temperatures through the weekend. There's to be no major precipitation until the middle of next week. The Canadian Grain Commission reports canola exports for the week ending October 23rd are 332,000 tons, down 18.5% from the previous week. However, year-to-date exports of 1.47 million tons are slightly ahead of those this time last year. As the United States dollar remains firm, the Canadian dollar is weaker. The loonie falls to 73.48 US cents compared to Thursday's close of 73.82. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reports 2 private sales of 2022-23 soybeans. One is for 126,000 tons to China, and the other is for 198,000 tons to Spain. Ahead of Monday's crop progress report, the trade believes that recent rain over the U.S. southern plains could generate a 5 to 10 point bump in winter wheat plantings. That said, the U.S. Drought Monitor places almost 3/4 of U.S. winter wheat in moderate drought or worse. That's a drop of nearly 20 points from a year ago. Rounding off prices at the Chicago Board of Trade, soybean futures are lower on Friday. The January contract loses a dime at $13.84 per bushel. December soy oil gives up about 2/3 of a cent at 71.62 U.S. cents per pound. December soy meal nudges up 30 cents at $4.1570 per short ton. Corn futures are lower, with the December contract down 4.5 cents at $6.78 per bushel. Chicago oats are slightly lower, with its December contract dipping a penny at $3.57.5. The U.S. wheat complex is lower as well, as Chicago December pulls back a dime at $8.28.5. Kansas City December sheds 11 cents at $9.21. And Minneapolis December loses 6 cents at $9.45. That's a look at the ICE futures and Chicago markets for Friday morning, October 28th. For Markets Farm in Winnipeg, I'm Glenn Halleck.
See more and do more in a new 300 Series compact track loader from New Holland. Its industry-leading 360-degree visibility is truly something to see at Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John. With its reverse camera and 8-inch multi-function LCD display, super boom lift technology, rock-solid stability, and redesigned controls, you'll work with greater speed, safety, and precision. Maximum productivity starts with a clear view. Stop by Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John today and see how a new 300 Series compact track loader helps you do more.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Welcome to the show. A little later on, we're going to be chatting with Spencer Hall, Energeticcity.ca's investigative reporter, all about his latest article about healthcare in the North called Code Grey, Rural Health Shortages, a Historic Issue. But first, the North Peace Community Foundation's work has been underway for several months now, and probably even longer. So to find out more about how that's been going and all that good stuff, and especially how they can help you and nonprofits in the community, we're joined now by the Foundation's Executive Director, Susan Adams. Welcome back to Moose Talks. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you for the invitation. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, as I said, I don't have the exact date on me, unfortunately, but it's been this year kind of since the foundation started taking over, the role that the city once played in grants and aid and this sort of thing. How's things been going since that started earlier this year?
Things have been going really well. So it's been about a year, and we've gone from developing policy and doing all of that background work that goes into building a nonprofit organization to actually having 2 open grant programs right now, which is quite a feat in and of itself for a charitable organization. So we're pretty proud of that. We've moved on from our inaugural board and are now welcoming community members to apply for positions either on our board of directors or on committees so that we can truly be a community-led organization. If people are interested in the opportunity, they can find more information on our website and an application form at northpeacecf.com.
Very cool. And that's anybody in the community who lives in the North
Anybody
Peace,
in
Fort
the
St.
North
John.
Peace region, you bet.
Wonderful. Really making it. I think the Mayor Lori Ackerman really said this was taking the power of the money kind of doling out of the hands of politicians and right into the community, as she said.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll be the decision makers and be guiding the vision for the foundation in the coming years.
Now, if I remember right, the sort of plan is that the city's still giving money to the foundation, but it's going to be self-sustaining in the future is sort of the idea, correct?
You're absolutely correct, yes. So the city is going to continue to fund what would have been their base budget grant program. It's now transitioned over to the Community Foundation, and we call it our Grants in Aid program. So they're still providing the funding right now for that, and local nonprofits and charities are eligible to apply for up to 95% of their municipal portion of the property tax bill, or for programs that they would generally apply to the city that they would be delivering to residents of the city.
I see. Has the process changed at all other than they ask the community foundation now rather than the city? Or is there a
We ask a
difference?
few more questions on
Yeah.
the application form, but the application is pretty much exactly what they've been filling out for the past few years. The criteria is the same criteria. It's just the foundation is administering those funds now and cutting the checks.
Okay, and I think you mentioned it already. I want to specifically talk about tax exemptions because there's been a few nonprofits who have been holding fundraisers lately who talked about taxation being an issue for them. That's something that the community foundation can now do, is provide those exemptions that the city was once doing, correct?
A little bit correct. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. So the property tax exemption program historically was just an automatic exemption, and municipalities would participate or not participate. For the past few years, the city of Fort St. John has not participated in that. And there were various reasons, but it really came down to the city of Fort St. John taxpayers sort of being double dipped in order to make these exemptions happen. So they pulled back and said, they would rather cut the check for their portion of a property tax bill. Is still about 3/4 of a property tax bill that comes along. The only thing that would be excluded would be the Peace River Regional District and the provincial school.
I see.
Those are the only exclusions really to the program. And the city also has said that they would start to sort of peel that back about 5% per year until 2027, when it will be at 75% funding. The ideal is that us as the North Peace Community Foundation can go out and raise funds to make up that difference and to be able to help those programs out. So it gives us a little bit of time to build up some funds, build up those grant monies, while the city's still supporting those groups at the same level they've supported them for the past few years.
I see. So the idea is, in theory, a nonprofit could just have this transferred over eventually all the way to the foundation providing the funding to cover the tax, essentially, in the way that the
Absolutely.
city was before.
Absolutely.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. What about grants and aid? And I get mixed up with this jargon as I don't know tons about nonprofits, but is that the same sort of idea as a tax exemption, or does that have a broader sort of application to?
It is a bit broader,
Yeah.
yes. So our grants and aid program that we have this year, there are the two city streams that people would have normally applied for either their property tax grant or a program grant through the city. So as the foundation, we've just called that a grants in aid.
I see.
So we, at minimum, expect to see people apply for up to 95% of their property tax for our nonprofits and charities. But if they have a program that they're looking for some help with, this is a good opportunity to ask for those funds as well.
I see. Okay. And I want to make sure I mention the neighborhood small grants. I know we've talked about this before. It's a very cool program. And with Christmas coming up, this could help a lot of people and nonprofits around town, couldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So just a clarification, nonprofits and organizations can't apply.
Oh, yeah.
This
My apologies.
No, that's okay. This program really lights me up because this is for individual citizens in the city of Fort St. John to apply for microgrants from $50 up to $500 to be able to meet, share, celebrate with their neighbors in their neighborhoods.
Okay.
So it may be Christmas decoration making, it may be caroling, it could be trying a new sport in the local park. Some of the ideas that have already been approved, which are really exciting, and I'll just go to my list on this because we've approved a few now. So some of the approved projects right now include community holiday swap and trade within a neighborhood, a book and seed library that somebody has kindly offered to put on their property, an old school bulletin board at Strata, and a Christmas decoration event in a particular block in the city. So the project ideas have been wonderful, creative, exciting, and it's really about creating those opportunities. So the question that I've been asking everybody, and I'll ask your listeners today, is what would you do if you had $500 to create a sense of community in your neighborhood? And there's still lots of time to apply. Applications are going to be accepted into December or when the funding runs out. But at this point, there's still plenty of funding available. So I hope that people, again, will go to our website at northpeacecf.com. You can find all the application details there. Very easy application process.
Now, if you don't mind, would something like, and there's lots of enthusiastic decorators in this town for Halloween, Christmas, whatever it happens to be. Is that something that could be considered for this? If you like to put on an elaborate lights display, which people will come see, for example, in your neighborhood, is that something that they could apply for $500 to help them do that?
Absolutely. As long as their neighbors are invited to participate and celebrate with them, absolutely.
Very cool. What a very cool program. All right. So once again, applications for kind of everything here. Deadlines, all that good stuff. What are we looking at for whether it's grant and aid, all that kind of stuff? Is that passed for next year already for the big ones? Or
for the grants and aid, applications are still open until the end of business on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So until the end of business on October 31st. We expect a few more to trickle in over the next couple of days, but the bulk have already come through. For neighborhood small grants, the application has been extended into December. So we're getting there. We'll hopefully have some very exciting announcements soon.
Excellent. All right, Susan. Well, I really appreciate you making some time to come chat with us today.
Thanks. Deb, do you mind if I just speak about one of our local nonprofits who've had some exciting things happen?
Please, let's do so, yeah.
Thank you. I want to talk about our Seniors Association and the Seniors Hall. So with the changes to the property tax program in the past few years and the effects of COVID on their activities, they've really increased their fundraising and their profile in the community. They've had some great corporate support over these past few weeks, and I would even go back to a GoFundMe that they hosted a while back, and they're really enjoying that. I had a visit with them yesterday. They're quite thrilled with all the support. We also talked about an opportunity that may be available for local nonprofits and charities to operate the good old game of bingo. Bring their volunteers, rent the hall from the seniors, and operate bingo. So if anybody's interested in that, I encourage them to contact Deb or Wendy at the Seniors Hall, find out more information. But there's a great opportunity to bring the game back to town.
Excellent. All right. Very good to know. Again, the website for people who want more information about the foundation?
northpeacecf.com.
All right, Susan. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Deb.
You're very welcome. That's Susan Adams, the Executive Director of the North Peace Community Foundation. We'll be right back to chat with Spencer Hall all about healthcare in Northeast BC right after this on Moose Talks.
100th Street in Fort St. John is a busy place and construction is ongoing. The City of Fort St. John reminds residents that all businesses on 100th Street remain open and accessible, and the city encourages you to visit them. Detour routes are in effect, and please remember to always slow down in construction zones and obey all traffic control people and signage. 100th Street in Fort St. John, still open for business. For more information on the ongoing construction, visit fortstjohn.ca/100th Street.
For years, Pro North Heating has been known for their heating services, but now they want to be known for their parts, too. Pro North Heating now has an online heating parts store stocking repair parts for HVAC equipment and boilers, along with the largest selection in BC of OEM parts for the most popular brands of boilers, furnaces, shop heaters, and water heaters. See Pro North Heating on Old Fort Road in Fort St. John, or shop online and pick up in-store. See their full in-stock inventory at pronorthheating.com.
For all your gravel hauling, contaminated waste, low beds, and graders, Rogers Trucking can meet your needs. Call them today at 250-785-3647.
Family-friendly movie night at the Lido is happening thanks to the FSJ Co-op. On Saturday at 3 p.m., you can watch Scooby and the gang solve a mystery Lego style.
What do you say, guys? Let's go somewhere fun and unwind.
Blowout Beach, here we come.
Mystery Incorporated.
Oh, is that your band name?
It is so nice to see young people undeterred by the threat of ferocious ghost pirates.
Ghost pirates!
Come dressed up because you could win prizes for best costume. All you have to do is sit back and watch all the pesky tricks unfold as Scooby and the gang solve them. And you can enjoy a Scooby snack or two as there will be candy provided. To attend, you have to reserve your seat. To find out how and for more information, visit moosefm.ca and click Win. Family-friendly Halloween movies at the Lido is presented by FSJ Co-op and Moose FM and supported by Polka Dot Penguin. Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at Energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dub Craig. Now to chat about his latest article on healthcare in Northeast BC. This one is called Code Gray, Rural Health Shortages, a Historic Issue. We're joined now by Energeticcity.ca's investigative reporter, Spencer Hall. Spencer, welcome to Moose Talks.
Thank you. Long-time watcher, first time sitting in this chair.
You had to take a long walk from the office.
It's a perilous journey every time, but I'm so glad that I was able to make it in today.
Well, thank you very much for taking a few minutes for us. So why don't you first tell us a bit for people who are like maybe surprised that we have an investigative reporter, have never heard about this before. Tell us a bit about your role here at Energeticcity.ca.
So after we did a bit of a survey, it kind of came out that, folks in the community want to see these more investigative stories, which are different from, say, daily reporting, because you can actually sit there and like kind of do a deep dive on an issue, which is very helpful. So normally you're doing a lot more research before, whereas with daily reporting, like you'll do research and obviously everything's correct, but normally you're writing from releases, or it's a very I don't want to say shallow, but it's not very in depth.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of more quicker process. You get the story out same day.
And it is incredibly important. I don't want to lessen the impact of daily reporters, but you do more of a deep dive on things.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, I mean, this is your second story now in this series called Code Gray about healthcare in the Northeast. I wonder why that was the first kind of subject you decided to start covering in your capacity as an investigative reporter.
Well, we'd heard a lot of stories from residents, and we'd had people reach out and heard a lot of stories in our community. And growing up in the north, I'm from Terrace, so I was aware that healthcare, there's long wait lists.
Yep.
And there's just not to lessen the people that work in the healthcare system. They're working as hard as they can, but it becomes more of a systemic issue. It's not someone's not doing their job.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's just been like this in the north pretty much the whole time. So we felt like it was something we definitely should be looking into, then that it was the first, because healthcare is such an important issue, especially right now after it seems that we're out of a pandemic. So
yeah, absolutely. And your first piece came out last month. What kind of response did you get and hear from that?
It's been largely positive. People have come up and said that it was well researched, which is always great for me to hear. That means I did my job correctly. But we did get some people who are saying we shouldn't be speaking about these issues, and they're worried about us retaining healthcare workers in our community. And unfortunately, that's not really it's not really my job. My job as a journalist is to inform people about the issues that are going on in our community, and by not reporting that, our job is to inform, and ultimately I stand by what I reported.
Yeah, because I think it's not like this subject. There's no secret that there are challenges to healthcare in Northeast BC. We see people bringing it up on Facebook every other day in this town and beyond. So this is more, can we ask the people in charge, the stakeholders, the workers, the yada yada, their views on it, and maybe get a sort of better idea of maybe what the problem is and perhaps even what the solution might be, I suppose, eh?
Sometimes, yeah. It's a little bit more complex than that, because I can't, just with the rules that are kind of in place right now, Northern Health healthcare employees currently aren't covered by watchdog protection, or whistleblower protection.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't walk up to a nurse and ask, but there were kind of ways around that we found around that by talking to the BC Nurses Union and that. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's been really rewarding at the same time.
Well, speaking of that, I wonder if you can speak sort of to the research that goes into this piece and this sort of larger story and narrative that you're crafting, and the people you have been talking to in order to research the articles.
Absolutely. So the first article really kind of focused around a call for an independent audit of Northern Health. So in that story, we talked to a lot of local leaders, as well as healthcare advocacy groups, health officials. We tried to talk to the Ministry of Health, but they were in the process of unveiling their it's like a 70-point healthcare resources. Basically how they're going to recruit and retain across the province, but there were some points that were specific to the north.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. And I mean, I know that part of that too was that there was and I'm blanking on who was on it, but there was sort of a council or a group form that was sort of advocating for this, that we need an audit of Northern Health instantly. And I know that played a big part in the first article too.
Yeah, initially it was the Peace River Regional District had asked for kind of more clarity into how funding was being done, and also they were hearing complaints from healthcare workers as well. So that audit request was denied.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Resource Municipalities Coalition, which included Mayor Ackerman, Taylor Mayor Rob Fraser, who of course now is the mayor of Fort Nelson, and then Gary Foster was also part of that, and I believe Joan Atkinson, who is the mayor of Mackenzie. So all of these communities in the North Piece were asking for this audit. And I think at this point, that just hasn't been answered by the ministry.
Mm-hmm. Now we've got this brand new article. It dropped yesterday. It seems to be about the history of these challenges, I suppose, in Northeast BC. Tell us a bit about that, and maybe even what some of them might be.
Yeah, so, upon looking at the archives that are available in the Fort St. John North Peace Museum, you can just walk in. Anybody can go up and walk in there and read them. It showed that we've, this isn't the first time that folks in the North have had to grapple with a healthcare worker shortage, dating back to like 1974 and then kind of onwards. And then kind of looking into that further, I was finding studies of rural medicine in BC, particularly in the North. And these issues are not new issues, and I couldn't find anything to say that they'd ever been resolved at any point. So really, Fort St. John, when we started, we had a 10-bed, well, initially it was a 2-bed hospital. Then that quickly got, bolstered up to a 10-bed hospital, which was actually, staffed by, I believe, the Sisters of Providence. So those were our nurses, and then we had one doctor. And then it, of course, has kind of grown from there. But the community's always been growing, and the healthcare workers have never grown to keep up with that population growth. And you kind of see it. It doesn't ever seem to get better. So a lot of that is how we try to recruit rural healthcare workers, by which it's you try to recruit somebody who's grown up in an urban community, and of course it's completely different when you when you work and live in a rural community going from an urban community. There's just differences. So normally I think we had a rule once where doctors needed to serve 5 years, and then you would find they'd leave after that 5 years, and now it's 2 years, I believe, and people usually leave after those 2 years because it's just different than what they expected. So really, from what I can tell, it's and a lot of other folks have said this, is that we need to be training rural people for these rural health positions.
Because they're already here, they already understand sort of the small town ethos, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, and as such they'd be perfect to kind of take on these roles, say.
Exactly, and the ministry and Northern Health is now aware of that. In their most recent presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, they are having a rural resident, like a rural mindset when it comes to hiring. So, there are initiatives that are kind of embracing that. It's just now seeing if they're going to work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Plans for future articles in this series and beyond. Can you give us a taste of what that might look like?
Yeah, so this series we're going to take a bit of a pause at this point. We are talking to patients, and the difficult thing with that is there are a lot of people that do have stories, but it's finding the documentation to kind of solidify that.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to go reporting on something that I don't know if it's true or not. Which not to say that people that it's not true. It's just there needs to be that documentation to back it up. So we're going to take a bit of a pause on Code Gray at this point while we kind of gather that information. And there's a few ideas in the hopper. I don't want to give too much away, but there will be an article next month. And I'm looking forward to working on it and looking forward for folks to read it.
Excellent. All right. Well, as I said, the latest article, Code Gray, Rural Health Shortages, a Historic Issue, has dropped. You can check it out now at Energeticcity.ca, or if you're one of our subscribers, you had access to it a couple days ago, so you can check it out there. It is well worth your time to read, and it'll take you a few minutes, so sit back with a cup of something and enjoy it if you can. Spencer, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to chat with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. At Spencer Hall, the investigative reporter with Energeticcity.ca. We'll be right back to wrap things up on Moose Talks right after this.
Driving Force is your go-to transportation solution. Looking for site-ready work trucks in a moment's notice? They have it. Discover the advantages of short and long-term renting with Driving Force. Visit drivingforce.ca. Driving Force. Now you're getting somewhere.
Craving something delicious and adventurous for you and your sweetheart? Date night, where you and your sweetie can dive into the delicious flavors at Oleo's Pizza and then have an adventurous experience at Amazing Escapes. Head over to moosefm.ca and click Win to enter date night and tell us why you deserve this delectable night out on the town. Moose FM's date night is presented by Oleo's Pizza and Amazing Escapes.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks to our guests, Susan Adams and Spencer Hall, for joining us today. You can keep up to date on all local and regional news now at Energeticcity.ca. You can also have all that news delivered straight into your email inbox daily by signing up for the newsletter at Energeticcity.ca/newsletter. We also offer a Peace Politics newsletter, which is specifically about all the political machinations of councils in the North Peace region, including Fort St. John City Council, the PRRD, and beyond. So make sure you head over to Energeticcity.ca/newsletters and sign up today. That's the show. Trey Lopashinsky and Jordan Prentice are the producers of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.